New York at his paper in Jamaica, and the dean wired me and said he had an opening in Jefferson City, Missouri, and that's the state capital. So I said, you know, that's a great opportunity, so I'll just take it. And we had AP, UP, INS, the bureaus there. And I was 21 years of age, and the United Press was Walter Cronkite. Howard Flieger was Associated Press. He finally covered the White House during the war and took over as U.S. News managing editor. Bill Knickerbocker, INS, and he became the London correspondent for International News. And I covered the state legislature and the police court and the city council. And it was, I didn't realize that these people they were only about 3-4 years older, and I didn't realize, you know, the magnitude of these people as it turned out. So and this is why, I guess, maybe it leads up to why Greg asked me if I would come. In 1941, in March, a Republican governor was elected in Missouri, first once in 3 construction days. And he appointed an honorary advisory staff, made them honorary colonels. Branch Rickey Sr. was the man who was put on the staff. And being that I was a cub reporter, and anytime there was some kind of a story none of the old timers wanted to cover, they'd say, "Hey kid, go down there." And he taught me that, you know, he said, you know, it's a business. Now, Mr. Rickey was by far the most able man I've ever known in sports, and I think I've known most of the giants in sports. But he missed his calling. He should have been president of a boys' university or a boys' school, because he wanted to mold character. He just didn't want to be a baseball man. He influenced people the way he influenced, you know, Jackie Robinson. And if you had a problem in negotiating a contract, he'd find, he'd say, "Judas Priest, boy, why don't you talk to him?" And young Branch Rickey Jr. was just wonderful, most loved guy in baseball. And Branch Rickey was an interesting story about Carl Furillo. Carl Furillo came in one day and he wanted to sign a contract, and he said, Mr. Rickey said, you know, what is your price? He said, "I want $21,000. And he said, "21,000, why should you?" He said, "I want $21,000. And Mr. Rickey said, you know, can you give me any reason for it? He said, "No, I 21,000. You know, Snyder was getting around 24, and I think Hermansky was playing left field, and he was getting somewhere in that neighborhood. And if you went to Mr. Rickey and say, "No, I want 21,000, Mr. Rickey. I had a good year. We're married. We have now 2 children. I have to buy a larger house with 2 bedrooms." Mr. Rickey would say, "You know, that's great. Okay." You know, he'd give you the 21,000. But Furillo, because I want 21,000, never told him a reason. So finally, Branch Jr. had to sign. But Mr. Rickey was by far the most able man, because first he started the farm system. No one had a farm system. St. Louis would not draw. You were playing the Browns in St. Louis. You know, if you drew, the Browns would draw 300,000 a year. That was a lot. And so Mr. Rickey said, "I've got to develop ball players and then sell them." He had 3 major leaguers at a position in some years. It'd be 3 shortstops. He had 2 first basemen, Rip Collins and Johnny Mize. So he always had to sell one. And this is the way they would continue to be afloat. And he would get scouts that were far superior to anybody else. The first thing he taught me about scouting, he said, "You can look at a boy run, you can look at a boy throw, you can look at a boy do all the physical things." He said, "You have to look in his heart and look in his head." He said, "That's what separates the great ball players from the ordinary ball players, or from the ordinary ball players and the inferior ball players." One day when I was with the Tigers, Billy Evans, general manager, said, "Go down to Vero Beach." He said, "Examine us, give us a report. What's he doing down there?" And I called Mr. Rickey, and he said, "That's great, you're coming down." He had a session on how to handle the apparent bunt. He said, "I'll bring 1 outfielder in, and I'm going to have 1 extra infielder." He says, "A man on first and second, no outs. Pitcher's up." See, that was before a designated hitter. He said, "He has to bunt. There's no way." So he said, "Why waste 3 outfielders? If he's left-handed, we'll bring the left fielder, and if he's right-handed, we'll bring the right fielder." And there was all the smart baseball people listening to Mr. Rickey. why this should be. And he used it, several times. And, then they used it against Ted Williams, the American leaguer, because Ted would pull the ball. Ted just said, hell, I'm not going to hit the ball to left field. I'm paid to pull the ball. And so, but Mr. Rickey was an innovator. He was so far superior. He made the big camp at Vero Beach, bring everybody in, and then he would have, like Duke Snyder didn't know the strike zone. And Mr. Rickey would take him out, way out, and have a pitcher throw, and he would stand up there. He said, now call every pitch, strike or ball, because Duke was a wild swinger, and finally he learned the strike zone. And he did so many things. And I was with Mr. Rickey the day he signed Jackie Robinson, but I didn't know that he was signing it. Branch Jr., his secretary's name was Mary, and he says, I'm going in. He said, you can't go in, Branch Jr. He says, no, he said, this is someone that's very close to us, and Dad will be happy to see him. So I went in, and there was this black man sitting there, and he introduced me to Jackie Robinson, but I had no idea that Jackie Robinson was going to be signed to a minor league contract. This was after Jackie Robinson left baseball. He became vice president, chock full of nuts. He didn't fit, like, Dixie Walker told him, he said, I can't play with a black man, Mr. Rickey said, why? He said, I can't go back home. He said, it'll be tough. He said, I've got a hardware store. And so Mr. Rickey said, okay, we'll trade him, we'll trade him. He wasn't always successful in molding character, but he tried.
Okay. Good insight.
And he liked it. Maybe he's trying to mold my character. He said,
What can you tell us about his relationship with O'Malley? Did he like each other?
no, terribly. See, O'Malley is a conniving, shrewd. He made his money, those ads in the subways. That's what he did. He was a lawyer. This is what he did. He had a trust. He was a trust officer for the family that owned the Dodgers. And he slowly got 25%, and he bought 25 more. And his duties in the World Series was to get the press room food. And they had the best food. They had lobsters, they had shrimp, they had all the liquor in the world. And that's what Walter O'Malley, I used to always say, Walter, this press room is better than what Mr. Yawkey has, at Boston. And he was very good at whatever he undertook. Very, very shrewd. Mr. Rickey and he did not see eye to eye at all. I don't think Walter O'Malley wanted Mr. Rickey to sign Jackie Robinson. That was probably the trigger. He said, we're not going to have him. I don't know why Mr. Rickey signed Jackie Robinson. I have some ideas. First, I think that he thought Jackie Robinson would be a good ball player. If he weren't a good ball player, I doubt if he'd have signed him. But he tried to get black people before Jackie Robinson. And he was forming this league. Clyde Superford was one of the super scouts running around looking for prospects. So he was trying to get black ball players. But actually signing Jackie, I think he said, this is the best I could find. I don't know if Josh Gibson was alive by that time. Satchel Paige was too old, and Wells and Pop Gates, they weren't ideal. And so maybe the ideal black ball player was a Cuban then. But they had a Cuban, John McGraw had a Cuban. They passed him off for a year, and they finally. So Mr. Rickey, and I think the true story, about his boy at Ohio Wesleyan, was, he couldn't get him a room in South Bend, and so it probably prayed. And Mr. Rickey, some call him as a hypocrite because he wouldn't go to the game on Sunday. He let the team play. Well, Mr. Rickey realized his limitations. For years you couldn't play Sunday in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the Blue Laws. But then Mr. Rickey, I guess he promised his mother that he would not be playing ball on Sunday.